The wind is screaming at 40 miles per hour. The temperature has dropped to -30. You have maybe 90 minutes before hypothermia starts shutting down your brain. And here's the thing nobody tells you about surviving an ice age blizzard. The shelter you're about to build could save your life, or it could become the frozen tomb where your body is found 20,000 years later. This is how Ice Age humans actually survived the most brutal conditions on Earth. And if you don't understand every single one of these principles, you're already in trouble. Picture this. You're standing on an open steppe somewhere in what will one day be called Europe. 25,000 years ago. The glaciers stretch for hundreds of miles to the north. The wind carries ice crystals that cut into your exposed skin like tiny razors. Your breath freezes the moment it leaves your mouth, coating your face in frost. The sun is setting, and somewhere behind those mountains, a storm is building. You can feel it in the pressure change. You can smell it in the air. You have no tent, no sleeping bag, no synthetic insulation, no lighter. What you do have is animal hide wrapped around your body, a hand axe, fire-starting materials if your hands stay steady enough to use them, and the knowledge passed down through 100 generations of people who figured out how to not die in the cold. That knowledge is what separates you from a frozen corpse. Let's start with the first thing you need to understand. Cold is not what kills you. Not directly. Wind is the real killer. This is the mistake that gets people every single time. They focus on temperature when they should be focusing on wind chill. At -30 degrees in still air, you might survive for hours with proper layering. But add a 40-mile-per-hour wind, and that effective temperature drops to something closer to -70. Your body starts losing heat faster than it can produce it. Your core temperature plummets. Your blood retreats from your extremities to protect your vital organs. Ice Age humans understood this instinctively. They knew from brutal experience that a calm night at -40 was survivable, while a windy night at -20 could kill you before dawn. So your first priority, before you even think about building anything, is finding the right location. And this is where most people would already be making fatal mistakes. Your instinct might be to find the highest ground. Get a good view. See the storm coming. That instinct will get you killed. High ground is exposed ground. The wind accelerates as it flows over ridges and hilltops. You'd be putting yourself directly in the path of maximum exposure. Instead, you need to think about the landscape differently. You need to read it like a map of wind and shelter. Look for depressions. Look for natural windbreaks. A rocky outcropping with a sheltered side. A dense stand of conifers if you're near the tree line. A natural hollow carved into a hillside. Even a snowdrift can tell you something important. If there's a massive drift piled against one side of a boulder, that tells you the wind comes from the opposite direction. The sheltered side is your friend. But here's the part most people get wrong. You don't just want any shelter from wind. You want to avoid creating a wind tunnel. Imagine you find a narrow gap between two rock walls. Seems perfect, right? Enclosed on two sides, protected. Except that narrow gap is going to accelerate any wind that enters it. The Venturi effect. Air speeds up when forced through a constriction. You'd be building your shelter in what amounts to a natural jet engine. The wind would be worse than if you'd stayed in the open. What you actually want is a pocket. A dead zone where the wind flows around rather than through. Picture a boulder the size of a small car. On the windward side, the air slams into it and creates turbulence. But on the leeward side, there's a zone of relative calm, a microclimate. That's where you want to be. Now let's say you've found your spot, a decent natural shelter, maybe a rock overhang, maybe the protected side of a ridge. You're out of the worst of the wind, but you're not done, not even close. Because the shelter isn't what kills you, it's what happens inside it. The ground beneath your feet is frozen solid. In some places, the permafrost goes down hundreds of feet, and that frozen earth is constantly, relentlessly, stealing heat from anything that touches it. Conduction. Direct heat transfer from warm to cold. If you lie down on frozen ground, your body heat flows directly into the earth. You can be wrapped in the thickest furs ever made, and it won't matter. The ground will drain you dry. Ice Age humans solved this problem, and the solution was layers. Not just clothing layers, ground layers. They would pile up anything and everything to create a barrier between their bodies and the frozen earth. Dried grasses, branches, pine boughs, moss, leaves, bone. Yes, bone. Archaeologists have found Ice Age shelters where the floor was literally carpeted with mammoth bones, covered with hides, then more insulating material on top. The goal is thickness. You need at least 4 to 6 inches of compressed insulating material beneath you. More is better. The material needs to trap air, because air is an insulator. Dead air spaces between the fibers slow down heat transfer. This is why animal fur works so well. It's not the hair itself that keeps you warm. It's the air trapped between the hairs. So before you even think about walls or a roof, you need to build your bed. Clear away any snow. Get down to solid ground if you can. Or pack the snow hard so it won't melt beneath you. Then start layering. Your bed is your survival. Everything else is secondary. Now let's talk about the structure itself. And this is where we have to think like Ice Age engineers. You have limited materials, no nails, no rope, unless you've prepared animal sinew in advance. No saws. What you do have is what the land provides. Stone, bone, wood if you're below the tree line, animal hides, and the most abundant building material in an Ice Age blizzard, snow. Snow is an incredible insulator. Fresh powder is about 95% air. Pack it down, and it still retains significant insulating properties. An igloo made from properly cut snow blocks can maintain an interior temperature close to freezing, even when it's 50 below outside. Here's one approach that actually works. Find your sheltered spot against that rock wall. Then build a windbreak on the exposed sides. Stack stones if you have them. Pile up snow and pack it hard. Create a wall that's at least 3 feet high between you and the direction the wind is coming from. Angle it so wind is deflected up and over rather than stopped dead. If you have hides and poles, create a lean-to structure against the rock wall. The hides go on the outside. The angle should be steep enough to shed snow but low enough to trap heat. Inside, the space should be small. Counterintuitively small. You don't want a big open chamber. You want just enough room for you and whoever's with you to lie down. That small space will heat up faster and lose heat slower. Now here's where things get serious, because you can build the perfect shelter. You can have the right location, the right windbreak, the right ground insulation, and you can still die inside it. Because there are 2 invisible killers that claim more lives than the cold itself. The first is carbon monoxide. The second is oxygen depletion. And if you don't understand this next part, you will not wake up in the morning. Any fire consumes oxygen and produces carbon monoxide. In an enclosed space, these gases build up quickly. Carbon monoxide is particularly insidious because you can't smell it, can't see it, can't taste it. It binds to your blood cells 200 times more effectively than oxygen. You get sleepy. You get confused. You fall into a deeper sleep. And then you don't wake up. Ice Age people learned this the hard way. Ventilation. Your shelter absolutely must have airflow. Even in the most brutal blizzard, you need a gap. An opening near the top where smoke and carbon monoxide can escape. An opening near the bottom where fresh air can enter. Cold air flows in low. Warm air and gases rise and flow out high. This feels wrong. Your instinct is to seal every gap, trap every bit of heat. But a perfectly sealed shelter is a death chamber. You're balancing heat retention against breathability. And breathability wins. Every time. You can survive being cold. You cannot survive not breathing. Speaking of fire, let's talk about what actually keeps you warm. Your instinct might be to build the biggest fire possible. Roaring flames. Maximum heat output. This is wrong for several reasons. First, big fires consume fuel rapidly, and in an Ice Age blizzard, you cannot go out foraging for more wood in the middle of the night. You'll use up everything you have and freeze when the flames die. Second, big fires create temperature differentials. The side facing the fire roasts, while the other side freezes. Third, big fires are dangerous. Sparks in a shelter of dry grass and hides can turn your salvation into a furnace. What actually works is small fires, controlled fires, ember management. You want a bed of coals that radiates steady heat for hours. You build up a thick layer of embers, then reduce the fuel. Let it glow rather than blaze. That steady, sustained heat is far more useful than dramatic flames. Here's another technique Ice Age people used. Heat rocks. Stones placed near the fire absorb heat slowly and release it slowly. Once they're hot, you can move them inside your shelter, away from the fire, and they'll radiate warmth for hours. Some cultures wrapped hot rocks in hides and placed them inside sleeping furs. No risk of carbon monoxide. No open flame. Just slow, steady thermal radiation. Now let's talk about the killer nobody sees coming. Moisture. You've been working hard, building your shelter, gathering materials, hauling rocks. Your body has been generating heat, and that heat has made you sweat. Moisture has accumulated in your clothing, trapped against your skin. And as soon as you stop moving and your body cools down, that moisture becomes a lethal liability. Water conducts heat away from your body about 25 times faster than dry air. Wet clothing isn't just useless as insulation. It's actively dangerous. It accelerates heat loss. Before you settle in for the night, you need to manage moisture. Loosen your clothing. Let sweat evaporate. If any layers are damp, take them off if you can and place them where they might dry. Wear dry layers against your body. And here's the other moisture source that kills people: melting snow. If snow gets inside your shelter and melts from your body heat, you now have water. Water soaking into your bedding. Water on your skin. Water that will freeze again when temperatures drop. Brush off your outer layers before entering. Keep the inside as dry as possible. Now let's talk about something that gave Ice Age humans a massive advantage: thermal cooperation. Humans are social creatures, and in Ice Age conditions, that sociality was essential. Body heat is body heat. Every living human radiates about 100 watts of thermal energy. Put several humans together in a small space, and you've got a collective heat source that no fire can match for consistency and safety. Ice Age bands slept together, not just families, entire groups. They huddled for warmth, sharing body heat in a way that dramatically improved everyone's chances of survival. One person alone in a shelter loses heat from all exposed surfaces. Two people pressed together lose heat from fewer surfaces. A group of 5 or 6, arranged in a huddle with the most vulnerable in the center, creates a thermal mass that resists cooling far more effectively. Children and elderly members, the most vulnerable to cold, would be placed in the middle. The strongest would take the outer positions, buffering the cold with their own bodies. This wasn't sentimentality. This was survival engineering. Now let's talk about the mistakes that turn shelters into death traps. Entrance facing the wind. Your shelter entrance is a weak point. If it faces directly into the prevailing wind, you've created a direct pipeline for cold air. The entrance should face away from the wind, ideally at a 90-degree angle. Create a baffle that forces air to make a turn before entering. Sleeping directly on frozen ground. The ground will drain you dry. Insulate the floor, always. Making the shelter too big. A large shelter takes forever to heat and loses heat constantly. You want a small, efficient space. Just enough for bodies and fire. No ventilation. Seal yourself in with a fire, and you die in your sleep. Period. Wet clothing worn overnight. Strip out of anything damp. Let it dry if possible. Underestimating fuel needs. You will need more fuel than you think. Gather twice as much as seems reasonable, then gather more. Running out of fuel at 3 in the morning is a death sentence. Let me paint you a picture of what getting this right looks like. You've found a rock overhang on the leeward side of a ridge. The stone wall blocks the worst of the wind. You've built a waist-high snow wall across the open sides. Your entrance is a narrow gap facing perpendicular to the wind. with a curve that blocks direct drafts. Inside, you've laid down a thick platform of branches, dried grass, and mammoth hide, 6 inches thick. Your sleeping space is just large enough for your group to lie together, touching, sharing warmth. Near the entrance, a small fire burns, the smoke flowing out through a gap in the roof. Hot rocks are tucked into sleeping furs. It's still cold, but it's survivable. And that's the difference. Because here's the thing about Ice Age survival. Nobody was comfortable. Comfort wasn't the goal. The goal was waking up in the morning. The goal was making it to dawn so you could live another day. Every single principle I've just explained was paid for in blood. Generations of humans who tried things that didn't work, who made mistakes and didn't survive them. The techniques that came down through the ages were refined by death. That's what I find most remarkable. Fragile, soft-bodied primates with no fur, no claws, looked at an Ice Age world that should have killed them and said, "We're going to figure this out." And they did. They used their minds to solve problems that evolution never prepared them for. They cooperated. They shared knowledge. They kept each other warm in the darkness while blizzards raged outside. That's the real story here. What it says about us as a species. That we're capable of surviving almost anything if we understand it, if we prepare for it, if we work together. If this video gave you a deeper appreciation for Ice Age survival, hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel and tells YouTube that this kind of content matters. If you haven't subscribed yet, click subscribe and tap that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Drop a comment with what survival situation you want me to break down next. And if you know someone who's obsessed with survival skills or ancient history, share this video with them. Thanks for watching. Stay warm out there.